We want to focus our town hall right now on the big decision that is ahead regarding schools and reopening. Joe Cantafio joins us live right now. He is president of the West Seneca Teachers Association and also on the board for the State Teachers Union. And Joe, I know you just wrapped up a meeting with a lot of other teachers and union leaders across the state. We appreciate you being here with us.
No, thanks for having me.
Well, Joe, before we talk about the guidelines that were announced today by the state, we want to start by getting your reaction to a really sad story from over the weekend in Arizona. 3 teachers in a district north of Tucson all got the coronavirus last month. They had shared a classroom for summer school, and tragically, one of those teachers died, and the other 2 are still recovering. And we're told that they wore masks and gloves, that they did social distancing. They took all the precautions and still they got the disease. So what are you hearing from fellow teachers and those you represent in the union about how they feel about the risks going back into classrooms?
Well, I think that just shows you that we don't know everything about this virus yet. It shows you how dangerous it is. And there's not a teacher that I've talked to that doesn't want to have their students back in their classroom, but we want to make sure it's safe. We want to make sure it's safe for all of our teachers, for the staff, and for our students. Because this virus, as we have learned, it can be brought home, it can be easily transmitted, even when we take all the precautions necessary. So it's really important that we remember that and we take all those important precautions seriously.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Joe, I want to talk to you about the reopening decision. As you know, today was an important part of the process. The state laying out these guidelines, pretty thorough, and now districts will have to come up with their individual plans. Then we'll get a final decision on reopening early next month. I want to listen to just a part of what the governor said today in terms of these guidelines. Listen.
Guidelines on transportation, food service, aftercare, extracurricular activities. Every child and person entering will be screened. Tracing has to work in the schools, cleaning and closure procedures. That's all in the guidelines.
So, Joe, what do you make of these guidelines that we got today? What do you think is missing, and what would teachers like to see changed, if anything?
Well, I think what I'm happy about is the governor and the Board of Regents are using science and data to drive decisions. And I think New York State has shown that that's the way to go because we've been able to get our numbers down. I also appreciate the fact that health and safety is the priority. And when we're looking at this testing, screening, transportation, all the things that the governor mentioned, I think it just shows that although we want to open schools, we need the resources. We need the federal government to come through with money so that we have the staffing. We don't know the capacity of each building, each bus. If we are going to truly screen every student, just imagine what that will look like when you have to have a nurse in front with a temperature check for everybody to come in. How many students can be on a bus at a time? How many students can be in the hallways? How many students can come into any entrance at any one time? So I think that the governor and the Board of Regents are on the right track by realizing the importance of the tracing, the testing, and the screening, and health and safety being the priority. But the logistic of it is truthfully overwhelming. But it's necessary if we're going to ensure the safety of all of our students.
Yeah, Joe, it is mind-blowing, and I'm sure that you're hearing from teachers who are fearful about going back. Are you going to be fighting for accommodations for those who might, for example, have pre-existing conditions and they're especially vulnerable, who maybe say they want to stay completely out of a classroom setting until there's a vaccine?
Well, absolutely. And we will fight for our students, for the families, and for those teachers, because it's not just those that are in the building, but we have teachers that have family members that are at risk. We have students that have family members that are at risk. And without the proper testing and the proper tracing, and then also we get into things like disinfecting schools, proper social distancing, having enough PPE, masks for all the students and for the staff, we could have healthy people in buildings that now are going to get this virus and bring it home to at-risk family members. So absolutely, we're going to fight for that. We want our students back in the classroom. We want to be back in the classroom. But with all the risks that are there, we have to take this very seriously.
Joe Cantafio joining us live. He is president of the West Seneca Teachers Association and also a board member for NYSET, the state union. Be nice to talk to you again as we go through this process. There is a lot to cover and a lot to discuss, and we thank you for joining us, Joe.
Thank you.
It is such a big issue to tackle, and we're going to stay on top of it, everybody, and keep you informed. Meanwhile, thank you for watching, and remember, please keep texting us your questions and your comments. We want to hear them. The number to do that is 849-2200.